Hey guys, I'm back. I'm going to be moving the camera around a little bit here, so I'll be stopping and starting and such. This is the Lee safety scale, and obviously it is off zero. There is this thumb wheel here that you turn if you need to raise it, raise your mark. You screw it that way. If you're too high, you want to screw it in a little. So obviously we got to go out. I've got this set to 0. Now I'm not going to move this scale once I get it set. It's going to stay right here. If I move it, I'll re-zero it. But our ball is on 0. This thing will measure up to 100 grains. 110 I think it is. So right now I'm set at 0. I'm set at 0 here. So I can go ahead and move it a little. So we're just going to go a little bit, because a little bit is a lot on this. And we're just going to now wait for it to balance out. Sorry about that. I got the camera in front of me right now, so it's hard to do some things. And I'm really close right now. It looks like I'm right on. I think I got lucky. That doesn't happen very often. I've had to fart with this thing for 10 minutes before. So that looks like we're right on the money. So now, like I said, I was going to go to 5.2 grains is what I'm going to set for. So we're going to take our pan off. And we're just going to, I'll take this off so we can get a little better look. This is what we've got to adjust. There's white marks in there. So we're going to go on the bottom. We're going to go to 5. And then we're going to go until the 2. Until there's a white mark clearly in the 2. You'll probably see a little bit on the 1 and the 3 too. But we want to go till the 2 is completely there. Right there. Push our pin in, then that'll lock it so it doesn't move anymore. So now we're ready to measure 5.2 grains. And we're going to have to move the camera, and I'll show you this is the Lee safety scale. It's a beam scale as opposed to a digital. I have a small inexpensive digital scale, but it's when I'm dealing with weights this low, it is very inaccurate and it's all over the place. When I'm weighing bullets and stuff, it's right on the money. It's pretty accurate for that. It's just these lighter weights. It's a cheap scale, so I don't expect a lot out of it. I was hoping for better, but we'll move a little. I'm going to just stop and I'll come back in a minute. This is the Lee Perfect Powder Measure. Again, it came with my kit. We're going to be using unique powder. The only powder I have on my bench right now is this. Everything else is put away. I don't want any chance of mixing up powders at all, because that can be very dangerous to mix powders. My other powders are a faster burning powder, and you definitely don't want to mix them in with the unique. It could be catastrophic because those powders, if I weigh them out, they need to be more like at the 4 grains, 4 to 4.5 grain range, whereas this needs to be at 5.3. And this, I use this in the 45 because it fills the case a little better. So that's my main reason for doing it with this. The powder, the lid comes off. When you go to empty it, this will come off. You can turn it to stop powder flow or have your powder flow. So it'll go both ways. I have a little mark on there so I don't get it in the wrong spot. But it's open right now so the powder will flow. I don't know what this is set for at this time. I think the last thing I loaded was 9mm, so it's probably set at 4 grains of accurate number 2. So my powder, I just want to pour it in the top, pour it in the hopper, and I want to fill it up almost to the very top. Just like that. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to see what it's set at. This is an adjustment, so you can adjust for more or less powder. It's adjustable. I don't remember how high it'll go. it'll probably, I don't know, go to 100 grains anyway. But we're not going anywhere near, we're not going to touch that weight. But I can't use this for weighing bullets, obviously, because it only goes to 100 grains. So I'm going to take one of my cases that has a primer in it, because I don't want any powder coming through the primer. Unique is a flake powder, and I don't know, this is probably not going to show up. But it's a flake powder as opposed to a ball powder. And it works really well if you have a case that you need to fill a little better. If I was to use Accurate number 2 in here, being a small spherical ball powder, it wouldn't even come close to filling this thing up. So you want to try to get your case as full as you can. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pan off my scale, and I'm going to throw probably 5 charges. I always give a little tap, especially with the Unique. Just to make sure we're flowing decent. We'll throw a few charges just to kind of get everything in there and get it ready to roll. We'll put our pan back on our scale, and I just hold the case right under here. Go up, go down, and it'll throw your charge in there. And I can see by looking at it, because I've used this powder for a while now, that I'm not anywhere near 5.2 grains. And we'll dump it in our scale, and we'll try to let it balance out. And I know I'm low. When you're low, now I'm not very low really. I'm actually pretty close, probably at about 4.8 grains I would guess. I'm just going to turn this black one out a little bit. Take my pan, and I'm going to throw a few more charges here just to make sure we're set to the new measurement. Dump it back in the hopper, put our pan back on the scale, throw our charge, dump it in the pan. Well, I'm coming up a little heavy this time, so we'll screw it back in. I went a little too far, I guess. Screw it back in a little bit. We're probably pushing 5.3 or 4 grains. And this powder measure isn't the most accurate. There's better out there. But I've been happy with it. It's within a tenth of a grain or so. It leaks a little bit. Sometimes I think it's probably me. Put my pan back on my scale before I forget. So we got a little less of a charge in here. With the 45 case and this small of a charge of powder, I can double charge. So what I'll do is I'll take, when I'm charging, and I'll set them into my loading block. Let's try that a little different here. It still says I'm way high. Screw it in a little more. Now if you look at this and put that there, you can see how far that bullet sits down in that case. It sits down in there, 3/8 of an inch maybe. Quarter of an inch. A little better than a quarter of an inch in there. So take that into account. You're down that far in the case, you only got this much space to fill it. So let's put our pan back on, move our caliper and turn it off so don't waste the battery. And dump it in there. And when I get this really close, I'll weigh like 3 charges to see how close I'm actually. Now this is looking just a hair light. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this, and I'm going to take another charge without changing anything and weigh it. And this is actually looking pretty good. Now this scale is pretty sensitive. A tenth of a grain is going to move it. Right now it is dead on. So while the first one was just a shade light, that was dead on. We'll weigh another one here and see how we're doing. This is the boring part, you know what I mean? Trying to dial it in real tight is going to be hard. With the Accurate number 2, it's really been accurate. It's within a tenth of a grain at the most off from charge to charge. And this one's just a skosh light, so I had 2 of them come up as just a hair light. I want to measure probably 2 more. If I had to guess from the way the scale is acting, it's going to be just a hair heavy. So I think I'm right where I want to be. My average will be 5.2 grains. Yeah, that's just a skosh high. So I'm not going to change anything with my powder measure. The first 5 or 6 cases, I'll charge 4 or 5, and then I will weigh another charge. So here's my cases, and I have a loading block. So my loading block will hold 75 cases. I made this loading block. It is nothing, absolutely nothing special. I have 2 of them, so it'll hold 150 rounds, which is usually, I'll sit down and make that many anyway. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to charge 5. One of these days I'll look into getting the other powder measure. They're not that expensive, but we'll see. That's charge number 5. Dump that in the scale and check it. And once you're confident with it, I will dump it in there and I'll let the scale balance out. I'll keep charging cases because I'm pretty confident in it. And we're just maybe half a grain high. So I'm going to figure that's pretty good. We'll do 5 more and weigh it again. And half a grain isn't going to make a world of difference. So I have some novelty bullets, I guess that's what I'm going to call them. They were made by a gentleman in one of the forums who made his own molds, and they're pretty cool bullets. I will put up pictures of them. One is kind of threaded, one is kind of a button head, and the other one's like a cross. Start charging the pan. Well, now if this, there's got to be something wrong here. Because if it comes out that way and stays that way, it's way high. I'll dump all of these back into the hopper and till I can get confident with it again. And sometimes you'll get one charge. Now, the amount that's off is maybe a grain. So I'm not real worried about it. But since I'm not anywhere near the max charge, we'll pour that in there, we'll weigh it again. Because if it's still high, I'm going to make a tweak to the scale, or to the powder measure. Yeah, we're still a little bit high. I'm just going to give it a nudge. We'll throw a couple charges. In theory, you know, the first charge should be right. So I just gave it a nudge to lighten her up just a hair. And we'll see how we weigh out before we start charging any more cases. And the way the scale is acting, I'm going to be right on the money. Maybe a hair light. No. Yep. Yeah, just a hair. And I mean a hair. Like maybe one flake. So we'll throw that on there again and we'll check it again just to make sure. Now it's coming up heavy again. About a couple flakes heavy. Try one more. I can't stress how important it is that you be, you know, I never load anything to the max. But yeah, this one's right on the money. Couldn't ask for better. So it'll kind of settle in after a little while. But I'm going to keep going like that. I'm going to check every fifth round, every fifth charge. Since I'm doing so many of them, I'm going to check every fifth one for the first 25, and then I'll check every 10th one after that until I'm done. That's just how I do it. There's a lot of other ways to go about it. More emails, I tell you. So I'll check again here, another 5 rounds. After I get this tray filled, I'll get back with you and show you the next step that I go to. And then we'll start putting some bullets in and have some completed rounds. So thanks for watching. God bless and stay safe. Sorry for the shakiness here, but I wanted to show you this step. I'm going to grab my little bore light, and the best way to do this is you want to look, and you look in that one. This is what you're looking for. That case hasn't been charged. This case has been charged, but if you look at the one next to it, this is where it should be. Your case is about half full. You can double charge this. That case there is double charged. And if you go to seat the bullet, you're going to increase your chamber pressure by so much your gun is probably going to blow apart. With this one, with the primer in it, the primer is enough to make the bang and push the bullet out. But the bullet's probably not going to exit the barrel. So when you take that next shot with a normally charged case, it's going to have to try to push that bullet out. You don't want that. These are some of the things that you got to watch for. So now what I'm doing is I'm going through here with my light, and I'll do this again. I'm just doing this on camera too. And I'm checking every case to make sure that everything looks to have about the same charge to it. So every case should be about half full. You're not going to be able to tell a difference in a grain, or in a tenth of a grain. In a grain you probably will, but because this is a bulkier powder. So we're just going to check it all. I'll check it again. But before you go to seating bullets, you want to check this. But this is exactly why I use a single stage, so that I have the opportunity to double check and make sure everything looks right. So I'll get ready to start seating some bullets, and I'll be right back.